Marcus Vaughan strode into Pinnacle Dynamics' gleaming Atlanta lobby, his tailored suit whispering wealth, expecting a warm welcome for his merger talk. Instead, receptionist Tara Hensley sneered at his black skin, spitting, "Get lost, deliveries. Go downstairs," and signaled security. Rough hands gripped him, but Marcus's calm gaze locked with a stunned black intern, silently vowing justice. As guards shoved him out, the oblivious crowd missed the spark that would torch Pinnacle by nightfall, reshaping Marcus's legacy forever. What would his next move unleash? Before we dive deeper, let me know where you're watching from today. If you stand for justice and accountability, hit that like button and subscribe, because tomorrow's special episode is one you won't want to miss. Stay tuned for a story that flips the script on power and prejudice. Marcus Vaughan stood across from Pinnacle Dynamics' towering Atlanta headquarters, its 40 stories of glass and steel glinting like a fortress of ambition in the morning sun. His charcoal blazer, crisp white shirt, and polished loafers spoke of quiet wealth, but he wore no flashy logos, just the subtle elegance of a man who'd clawed his way to billions. At 35, he helmed Vaughan Tech, a global titan in AI-driven medical diagnostics, revolutionizing hospitals with algorithms that spotted diseases human eyes missed. Today, he'd come to discuss a merger with Pinnacle's CEO, Evelyn Carter, a move that could vault both companies to new heights. But Marcus had a ritual: arrive early, unannounced, blending into the crowd to gauge a company's soul. He'd learned long ago that culture revealed more than balance sheets, especially when nobody knew the boss was watching. His mind flickered to his roots in a cramped Decatur apartment, where he'd coded his first diagnostic tool on a second-hand laptop, dodging eviction notices. Back then, bank managers had scoffed at his loan applications, their polite smiles barely hiding disdain for a black kid with big dreams. Investors had grilled him harder than white founders, demanding triple the proof for half the cash. He'd pushed through, building Vaughan Tech into a $9 billion empire, but the scars of those slights sharpened his instincts. Today wasn't just business, it was a test. Would Pinnacle treat him as an equal, or would old biases rear up? He adjusted his cufflinks, a gift from his wife Nia, and crossed Peachtree Street, joining the Monday rush of employees funneling into the lobby. The air shifted as he entered, a subtle chill replacing the morning's warmth. Pinnacle's interior screamed money. Marble floors gleamed under crystal chandeliers, abstract sculptures loomed like silent sentinels, and a massive digital ticker scrolled stock prices above a security desk. Employees in tailored suits hustled past, their chatter fading as they clocked Marcus. A white executive in a pinstripe jacket breezed through, earning nods and smiles from staff. Security waved him along without a glance at his badge, but when Marcus approached, heads turned differently. A guard's eyes lingered, narrowing slightly. A woman clutched her purse, stepping aside. The weight of their stares pressed against him, familiar yet no less cutting. At the reception desk, Tara Hensley perched like a gatekeeper, her blonde ponytail swinging as she typed with manicured nails. Her nameplate read, "Guest Relations, Manager," and a cheap gold bracelet clinked against her keyboard, a knockoff trying too hard to shine. She was mid-20s, her practiced smile tight as she ignored a nervous intern asking for directions. "Figure it out," Tara snapped, waving the kid toward a directory screen. "I'm not your GPS." The intern scurried off, cheeks burning, and Tara's lips curled in a smug grin, savoring the petty flecks of power. Marcus stepped up, his presence steady, voice smooth as polished oak. "Good morning, I'm Marcus Vaughan, here for a 9 o'clock with Evelyn Carter." Tara didn't look up, her fingers dancing over her phone instead of the computer. Her eyes flicked to him, scanning his skin, his suit, his lack of a loud Rolex, and landed on a verdict before he'd finished speaking. "Name's not ringing." "Bells," she said, her tone dripping boredom. "You sure you're in the right place?" Her gaze darted to his blazer, as if searching for a delivery patch. Marcus kept his face neutral, though his pulse ticked up. He'd seen this play before, the quick math of prejudice sizing him up as less. "Check the executive calendar," he said, calm but firm. "It's there." She sighed, loud and theatrical, setting her phone down with a clack. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, but Marcus caught the ruse. She wasn't typing, just pretending to check. "Nope, nothing," she said, popping the P like a jab. "No Vaughn, no meeting. Deliveries. Go to the basement around back." Her smirk widened, and she leaned forward, voice dropping to a conspiratorial hiss. "This ain't the spot for walk-ins, buddy." A co-worker at the next desk snickered, catching Tara's eye, and she muttered under her breath, "Some people got no clue where they belong." The slur wasn't loud, but it landed like a blade, sharp and deliberate. Marcus's jaw tightened, but he held his ground, the lobby's hum fading to a dull roar in his ears. He reached for his phone to call Evelyn directly, but Tara's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist with surprising force. "Hey, don't get cute," she barked, loud enough to turn heads. "I said you're done here." Her grip dug into his skin, and she stood, trying to steer him toward the exit. The move drew eyes. Employees froze, coffee cups mid-sip, as the scene unfolded like cheap theater. Two security guards, burly and stone-faced, materialized, their hands hovering near batons. "Problem, Miss Hensley?" the taller one asked. His voice clipped. Tara crossed her arms, chin jutting out. "This guy's refusing to leave. Says he's got some meeting, but he's full of it." The guards flanked Marcus, their bulk a clear threat. "Sir, let's step outside," the shorter one said, his fingers brushing Marcus's elbow. Marcus didn't flinch, his eyes flicking. To the mezzanine above, where a black intern, Lena, he'd later learn, watched, her fists clenched, horror etched on her face. Their gazes locked for a split second, a shared recognition of the injustice playing out. Then his focus shifted to the elevators, where a man in a sleek grey suit stood, arms crossed, lips curled in a faint, satisfied smirk. Gregory Holt, Pinnacles. Kazu locked eyes with Marcus, his silence louder than any slur. He knew exactly who Marcus was. Forbes covers didn't lie, but chose to let the humiliation roll. The elevator doors closed, swallowing him like a ghost. Marcus's blood simmered, but he kept his voice level. "There's a mistake. I'm expected upstairs." The tall guard tightened his grip, tugging him toward the glass doors. "Outside now. We'll sort it there." Tara leaned over her desk, whispering to her snickering co-worker, "Told you they always try to talk big." Her words stung, but Marcus's mind was already racing past the insult. This wasn't just one receptionist's bias. It was a symptom, a crack in Pinnacle's foundation he'd exploit. As the guards pushed him through the lobby, he slipped his phone from his pocket, firing off a text to his CFO. "Pull Pinnacle's financials. Deep dive. Now." He sensed Holt's smirk wasn't random. Something bigger was afoot. The revolving doors loomed, but before the guards could shove him onto the sidewalk, Marcus's phone buzzed. Evelyn Carter's name flashed on the screen. He answered, keeping his tone even as the guards hesitated. "Marcus, I'm so sorry," Evelyn's voice crackled, frantic. "There's been a terrible mix-up. Please come back up. I'm in the boardroom waiting." Marcus paused, letting the guards hear her words. Their grips loosened, uncertainty flickering across their faces. "On my way," he said, hanging up. He straightened his blazer, brushing off their touch, and turned back toward the lobby, his stride deliberate. The crowd parted, some whispering, others avoiding his gaze. Tara's smugness faltered as he re-entered, her eyes darting to the guards, who now hovered awkwardly. Marcus stopped at her desk, his stare cold enough to freeze steel. "You might want to double-check that calendar next time," he said, voice low but laced with iron. Tara's lips parted, but no words came. She scrambled to her computer, fingers actually typing now, her face flushing as she saw his name in bold. Marcus Vaughn, CEO, Vaughn Tech, 9 a.m., Evelyn Carter. Her mouth worked silently, a fish gasping on dry land, but Marcus was already moving toward the elevators, his mind sharpening for the fight ahead. He thought the worst was over, a clumsy receptionist, a quick fix. Evelyn's apology had smoothed the surface, and he'd soon be pitching the merger that could redefine biotech. But as the elevator doors slid open, Tara's voice cut through the lobby, shrill and venomous. "He's lying. He snuck in. Probably. Stole that phone to fake the call." She stood, pointing, her co-worker nodding eagerly. The guards tensed, hands twitching toward their batons again, and a new wave of stares pinned Marcus in place. His pulse spiked, not from fear, but from clarity. This wasn't a mistake. It was a gauntlet, and Pinnacle had just thrown it down. Marcus Vaughan stepped off the elevator onto Pinnacle Dynamics' executive floor, his polished loafers silent on the plush navy carpet. The air smelled of leather and ambition, a stark contrast to the lobby's venom just minutes ago. His pulse still thrummed from Tara Hensley's shrill accusation. She'd called him a liar, a thief, right there in front of the gawking crowd. But he shoved it down, his face a mask of cool precision. He'd faced worse than a receptionist's tantrum and come out on top. Today, he'd come to seal a merger that could fuse Vaughan Tech's AI diagnostics with Pinnacle's biotech labs, creating a juggernaut in medical innovation. But the lobby's hostility lingered like a bad aftertaste, and that smug suit in the elevator, Gregory Holt, he'd clocked from a shareholder report, had watched it all without a word. Marcus's gut screamed setup, but he had no proof. Not yet. Evelyn Carter's assistant, a jittery woman in a grey skirt, met him at the frosted glass doors of the boardroom. "Mr. Vaughan, we're so sorry," she stammered, her eyes darting to his blazer, as if checking for damage from the guard's rough hands. "This way, please." Marcus nodded, slipping his phone into his pocket after texting his general counsel to flag Pinnacle's security footage. If this went south, he'd need evidence. The assistant led him into a cavernous room where Atlanta's skyline sprawled through floor-to-ceiling windows, framing a mahogany table packed with Pinnacle's top brass. Evelyn stood at the head, her silver bob pristine but her smile strained like she'd just swallowed glass. "Marcus, I'm mortified," Evelyn said, rushing forward to clasp his hand. Her grip was clammy, her blue eyes pleading. What happened? Downstairs was unacceptable. Tara's being dealt with, suspended, maybe fired. "Please, let's put this behind us." Her voice cracked slightly, betraying desperation. Pinnacle's stock had dipped 6 points last quarter, and Marcus knew she needed his tech to stop the bleed. He studied her, weighing her sincerity against the memory of Holt's smirk. "Mistakes happen," he said evenly, taking a seat. "Let's talk business." The executives around the table, mostly white, mostly male, shifted uncomfortably, their tailored suits rustling. Marcus caught their side glances, the kind he'd endured at every elite table he'd crashed. He leaned back, letting the silence stretch, then launched into his pitch. "Vaughan Tech's neural network can predict cancer mutations 5 years before symptoms," he began, clicking a remote to project stats onto a massive screen. Numbers danced. 98% accuracy, 2 million patients saved, billions in revenue. His voice was steady, commanding, each word a brick in a fortress of proof. Pair that with Pinnacle's gene editing labs, and we're not just curing diseases, we're rewriting medicine. The room leaned in, captivated. A bald CFO scribbled notes furiously. A young VP murmured, "Genius." Even Evelyn's tension eased, her lips curving into a real smile. Marcus felt the shift. He had them. His tech was undeniable, his vision a beacon. He was no longer the guy Tara had sneered at. He was the future. But across the table, Gregory Holt sat unmoved, his angular face carved from stone. The COO's pale eyes bored into Marcus, unblinking, while his fingers tapped his phone under the table out of sight. Marcus clocked it, a flicker of unease cutting through his triumph. Holt hadn't spoken, hadn't questioned the data. That wasn't disinterest. It was strategy. As the meeting wrapped, Evelyn clapped her hands. "Marcus, this is transformative. We'll draft terms tonight." The room nodded, buzzing with agreement. Marcus stood shaking hands, his confidence surging. He'd turned the lobby's ugliness into a footnote, proving his worth where it counted. Maybe Pinnacle wasn't rotten through, just a bad apple in Tara. He allowed himself a moment of relief, picturing Nia's proud smile when he'd tell her the deal was on track. But as he headed for the elevator, his phone vibrated, a notification from his PR team. Then another. Then 10. His screen lit up with alerts, each one a punch to the gut. He opened the first link and his blood ran cold. A video was spreading like wildfire across social media. already at 500,000 views in 30 minutes. The title screamed, CEO goes ballistic in Atlanta lobby. It was Pinnacle's security footage, crystal clear, showing Marcus being grabbed by guards. But it wasn't raw. It was edited, viciously so. The clip cut his calm words, splicing in moments where his jaw tightened, making him look like he'd lunged at Tara. Her voiceover, tearful and rehearsed, played over the footage. He shoved past me, yelling threats. I was terrified he'd hurt someone. The final frame zoomed on Marcus's face. His eyes narrowed, captioned, "Dangerous intruder." Comments flooded in, venomous and predictable. "Typical thug in a suit. Keep him out of boardrooms. Pinnacle's better off without this guy." Marcus's breath caught, his fingers trembling as he scrolled. Vaughn Tech's stock. Ticker flashed on his screen, down 4 points in minutes. Clients were emailing his team, spooked, asking if he was unstable. His legacy, built over a decade of grinding past every racist hurdle, was being shredded in real time. He tapped the video's metadata, his coder instincts kicking in. The upload traced to an anonymous account, but the server signature pinged. Pinnacle's internal network. Someone high up had greenlit this. He strode back to the boardroom, where Evelyn was still chatting with her team. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low but edged with steel. She paled, sensing trouble. "What's wrong?" He held up his phone. The video paused on Tara's fake tears. "This came from your servers. Care to explain?" Evelyn's jaw dropped, her shock genuine, or a damn good act. "That's impossible," she stammered. "I'll have it investigate immediately." Marcus's eyes flicked to Holt, who lingered by the window. His phone now pocketed, his smirk gone, but his posture too relaxed, like a predator biding its time. Marcus's team traced the leak deeper, pulling server logs in real time. The trail led to an encrypted folder in Pinnacle's executive suite, accessed by Holt's credentials 2 hours ago. Marcus's stomach twisted. Holt hadn't just watched the lobby scene, he'd weaponized it. This wasn't Tara's petty bias anymore. It was a calculated strike to tank Marcus's credibility and kill the merger. Holt wanted him out, and he'd bet Pinnacle's future to do it. Marcus met Holt's gaze across the room, a silent challenge passing between them. He'd won the boardroom, dazzled the suits, but now the real fight was on, and it was uglier than he'd ever imagined. Evelyn promised a full probe, her voice shaking as she called for her head of security. Marcus nodded, playing along, but his mind was already 3 moves ahead. He'd come to Atlanta for a deal, not a war, but Holt had drawn the line. Every slur, every slight, every rigged game Marcus had faced in his climb flashed through him, fueling a fire he'd kept banked too long. He stepped into the elevator, the doors closing with a soft thud, and whispered to himself, "You just woke the wrong lion," but the damage was spreading. His CFO texted, "Major client pulling out. Stock's at 5 points down. We need to respond now." Marcus's victory in that boardroom, the applause, the handshakes, it was all dust. Holt's video had turned him into a caricature, a black man reduced to a threat in the public's eye. He'd thought he'd buried the lobby's shame, but it had clawed its way back, sharper and deadlier. As the elevator descended, he braced for the next blow, knowing this was only the opening shot in a battle he hadn't chosen, but would damn well finish. Let me know if you're raging at Holt's dirty play. Comment number 1, if you think Marcus deserves to flip the script on this snake. Hit that like button to back his fight for justice, and subscribe to catch every twist in this saga of power and payback. Can Marcus outsmart a man who's rigged the game from the start? Marcus Vaughn sat in his Atlanta hotel suite, the city's skyline a glittering taunt beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. His laptop glowed with the viral video's latest metrics, 3 million views, climbing fast, each click another nail in his reputation's coffin. The edited footage from Pinnacle Dynamics lobby, his tense jaw spliced to look like a snarl. Tara Hensley's fake sobs painting him as a threat had unleashed a torrent of hate. Social media buzzed with slurs, calling him a suit-wearing thug and worse, while Vaughn Tech's stock bled 7 points overnight. Clients were ghosting his team, their emails vague but panicked, and his board was texting non-stop, urging damage control. Marcus's fingers hovered over his keyboard, his mind a battlefield. He'd come to Pinnacle for a merger, not a crucifixion, but Gregory Holt's smirk in that boardroom told him this was no accident. The COO had turned Tara's prejudice into a weapon, and Marcus wasn't about to let it stand. He drafted a press release, every word honed like a blade. Vaughn Tech condemns Pinnacle Dynamics' toxic culture, it began, detailing the lobby incident without naming Tara directly. Her suspension was enough for now, Evelyn had sworn. Marcus exposed the video's manipulation, citing server logs his team had pulled, pointing to Pinnacle's executive suite. He didn't name Holt, not yet. Proof was thin, and he needed to play smart. Discrimination isn't just personal, it's systemic, he wrote, calling for accountability. His PR chief, Simone, polished it, and by noon they blasted it to every major outlet. Marcus leaned back, exhaling. This was his counterpunch, a chance to flip the narrative and save his company. The response was electric. Tech blogs ran headlines. Vaughn Tech CEO slams Pinnacle's bias. Activists amplified his words, trending charts justice for Marcus. By 2 o'clock, Pinnacle's stock wobbled, dipping 3 points as investors sniffed trouble. Evelyn called, her voice tight. Marcus, we're handling this internally. Holt's under review. Please, let's keep the merger alive. He heard her fear. Pinnacle needed his AI to survive, and for a moment, he felt the scales tip back, in his favor. Social media shifted too. Supporters posted his Forbes covers calling him a visionary, not a villain. A black entrepreneur tweeted, "They tried to bury him, but Marcus Vaughn don't break." His chest warmed at that, a flicker of hope. Maybe he'd weathered the storm, turned Holt's knife back on him. He stood, stretching, ready to prep for tomorrow's investor call. His phone buzzed with a news alert and he smiled, expecting more traction from his release. But the headline froze him. Vaughn Tech CEO wanted for assault at Pinnacle HQ. His stomach lurched as he read. A police report filed an hour ago claimed he'd punched a security guard during the lobby scuffle. The guard, unnamed, was hospitalized with injuries. Marcus's mind raced back to Tara's grip, the guard's shoves, no punches, no blows, just their hands on him. This was fiction, but the article cited witnesses and looped the viral video as proof, framing his aggression as fact. Before he could call his lawyer, red and blue lights flashed through his window, sirens wailed, and heavy boots thumped in the hallway. Marcus barely had time to grab his phone before the door burst open, 6 cops flooding in, guns drawn. "Marcus Vaughn, you're under arrest for assault and battery," the lead officer barked, his voice clipped, eyes hard. Marcus raised his hands, heart pounding, but kept his tone steady. "This is a mistake. I didn't touch anyone." The officer ignored him, snapping cuffs on his wrists with a force that pinched his skin. Cameras flashed outside. Someone was live streaming, the feed already hitting thousands of views. As they dragged him through the hotel lobby, a crowd gathered, phones raised like vultures circling a kill. Marcus spotted a familiar face among them. Tara Hensley, her blonde ponytail bobbing, a cruel smile twisting her lips. She leaned into a bystander, whispering, loud enough for him to hear, "Told you he was trouble." Her eyes gleamed with vindication, no trace of the flustered receptionist who'd fumbled his name. Marcus's blood boiled, but the cuffs bit deeper as the cops shoved him toward a squad car. The live stream's comments rolled in real time. "Lock him up." "Pinnacles." "Safe now." Each word was a fresh wound, carving his name into a lie. The precinct was a blur of fluorescent lights and sneering officers. Marcus sat in a holding cell, his suit rumpled, his mind dissecting the setup. The hospitalized guard was a ghost, no medical records, no name released. His lawyer, Priya, arrived, her face grim. "This reeks of coordination," she said, flipping through papers. "The report's flimsy, but it's enough to hold you till morning." Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. "Check Pinnacle's filings. Holt's not working alone." Priya raised an eyebrow but jotted it down, trusting his instincts. Released on bail at dawn, Marcus stepped into a city now hostile, paparazzi hounding his every move. Back at the hotel, Simone met him with worse news. Pinnacle had filed an emergency injunction to block the merger, citing his violent history as a risk to shareholders. The filing was brutal, painting Marcus as a loose cannon who'd endangered staff. It quoted the fake police report and leaned hard on the viral video, claiming Vorntech's instability threatened Pinnacle's future. Marcus's stock plummeted another 5 points, and 2 more clients bailed, spooked by the legal chaos. His board was in panic mode, one director texting, "Step back, Marcus, save what's left." The words stung, but quitting wasn't in him. He sank into a chair, rubbing his wrists where the cuffs had chafed. Simone handed him a tablet, her voice low. "We dug into Holt, like you asked." The screen showed emails, hacked from a dark web leak, linking Holt to next-gen biotech, Pinnacle's rival. He'd been feeding them insider tips for months, angling for a payout if Pinnacle tanked. One email sent yesterday read, "Vaughn's done. Push the narrative." Marcus's pulse quickened. Holt wasn't just sabotaging him. He was playing a bigger game, using racism as a cudgel to sink the merger and cash out. Marcus stared at the skyline, Atlanta's lights mocking his unraveling plans. He'd thought his press release had clawed back control, turned the lobby's shame into a rallying cry. Supporters had cheered, Evelyn had groveled, and for a fleeting hour, he'd felt like the Marcus Vaughn who'd built an empire from nothing. But Holt had been waiting, his trap coiled tight. The arrest wasn't just a smear, it was a public execution broadcast live, designed to break him. Tara's laugh in the crowd wasn't random. She was Holt's pawn, her bias weaponized to light the fuse. Priya called, her voice urgent. "The injunction hearing's tomorrow. If we don't counter this, the merger's dead, and Vorntech's next." Marcus nodded, his mind sharpening despite the exhaustion. He'd faced rigged systems before, loan officers who'd laughed, VCs who'd passed, cops who'd profiled. Each time he'd found a crack, a way through. Holt thought he'd caged him, but Marcus wasn't done. He opened his laptop, pulling up Next Gen's financials. If Holt had allies, so did he. The fight was uglier now, the stakes bloodier, but he'd play their game, better, smarter, and harder. Marcus Vaughn paced his Atlanta hotel suite, the skyline outside a jagged reminder of how fast his world was unraveling. The sting of handcuffs lingered on his wrists from yesterday's arrest, a staged spectacle orchestrated by Gregory Holt to bury him. Pinnacle Dynamics' injunction loomed, threatening to kill the merger and gut Vorntech's future. The viral video, Tara Hensley's lies, and now a fake assault charge had slashed his stock 10 points, with clients fleeing like rats from a sinking ship. But Marcus hadn't built a $9 billion empire by folding. His team was his lifeline, and they'd been digging since Holt's smirk in the boardroom tipped him off. Tonight they'd strike back. Simone, his PR chief, sat at the suite's glass table, her laptop open to a secure server. "We're in," she said, her voice low, eyes flicking to Marcus. His lead hacker, Jamal, had breached Pinnacle's firewall, slipping past their laughably outdated encryption. Marcus leaned over her shoulder, scanning the files Jamal had pulled. Emails, hundreds of them, glowed on the screen, all from Holt's personal account. One thread, dated 2 days ago, caught his eye. Holt to a Pinnacle guard, instructing, "File the assault report. Make it stick." Another email, sent hours before the arrest, told an unknown contact, "Vaughn's history after tonight." Marcus's jaw clenched. Proof cold and hard that Holt had scripted his public shaming. "Send it to Reyes at the Journal," Marcus said, his voice steady despite the fury boiling inside. Simone nodded, her fingers flying. By midnight, the Wall Street Journal had the scoop. Pinnacle COO fabricated assault claim against Vorntech CEO. Marcus watched the story go live, his phone buzzing as it spread. Tech outlets picked it up, blasting Holt's name across headlines. Social media flipped, with a takedown Holt trending by dawn. Pinnacle's stock plummeted 5 points, investors spooked by the scandal. Employees posted leaks anonymously, exposing years of Holt's bullying. Evelyn Carter issued a statement, suspending Holt pending investigation, her tone dripping panic. Marcus felt a rush. This was his move, clean and brutal, hitting Holt where it hurt. He sank into a leather chair, allowing himself a moment to breathe. The injunction hearing was in 6 hours, and Priya, his lawyer, was prepping to shred Pinnacle's case with the emails. VaughnTech's stock ticked up slightly, a fragile recovery, and a major client emailed, hinting they'd stay if the legal. A mess cleared. Marcus's mind flashed to Nia, her voice steady on their last call. "You've beaten worse, keep swinging." He smiled faintly, thinking he'd turned the corner. Holt was cornered, Pinnacle wobbling. Maybe he'd salvage the merger, even come out stronger. His phone pinged with a text from an unknown number. "Meet me. Peachtree Cafe, 7 a.m. I know more about Holt." It was signed Lena. Marcus frowned, recalling the black intern from the lobby, her clenched fists as Tara's venom flew. He'd seen her horror, felt her silent alliance. Risky, but his gut said go. At the cafe, Lena sat in a corner booth, her braids pulled back, her eyes darting like she expected trouble. She was 22, a Georgia Tech grad interning at Pinnacle, and her voice shook as she spoke. "I saw what they did to you," she said, sliding him a USB drive. "Holt's got dirt, bribes, rigged bids, it's all here." Marcus pocketed the drive, studying her. "Why risk this?" he asked. Lena's lips tightened. "Because I'm tired of their game. They treat us like we're invisible, then crush us when we shine." Her words echoed his own battles, loan officers sneering, boards doubting. He nodded, trusting her fire. "We'll take Holt down at the gala tomorrow," he said. Pinnacle's annual biotech bash was the perfect stage to expose Holt's rot, with every exec and reporter in earshot. Lena agreed, her resolve mirroring his. Marcus left the cafe feeling invincible, like he'd found the key to end this war. They spent the day planning. Lena fed him names, Holt's allies, weak links in Pinnacle's board. Marcus's team verified the USB's files, invoices tying Holt to shady contractors, memos burying complaints from black staff. Priya prepped a bombshell speech for the gala, weaving the emails and Lena's leaks into a knockout punch. By evening, Marcus stood before his mirror, adjusting his tux, picturing Holt's face when the truth hit. Evelyn had texted, promising Holt's ouster if Marcus played ball. The injunction was crumbling. Priya had spooked Pinnacle's lawyers with the email leak. VaughnTech's stock climbed 2 points. He was back in control, the lobby's humiliation a fading scar. But as he knotted his tie, his phone rang. Simone, her voice jagged. "Marcus, we've got a problem." His heart sank as she explained. A federal regulator, tipped by an anonymous source, had launched a surprise audit on VaughnTech, freezing its accounts. Bank wires stopped, payroll stalled, and suppliers cut ties, citing compliance risks. The news hit like a sledgehammer. VaughnTech couldn't operate without cash flow. Simone's screen shared a leaked memo, stamped with Pinnacle's logo detailing concerns about Marcus's unethical practices. The regulator's name matched a donor on Holt's email chain. Marcus's breath caught. This wasn't random. Holt had bribed the system itself. His stock crashed another. 8 points as clients bolted. Spooked by bankruptcy rumors, board members flooded his inbox, demanding he step down to stabilize the company. Marcus's vision blurred, the gala plan fading under the weight of ruin. He'd exposed Holt, rallied the public, even won Lena's trust, but it wasn't enough. Holt had struck deeper, turning Marcus's strength, his empire, into a liability. He gripped the phone, ready to call Priya, when a new text from Lena popped up, her words frantic. "They found me. Threatened my mom and brother. Holt's people. I'm sorry." Marcus froze, the room spinning. He dialed Lena, but it went to voicemail. He pictured her in that cafe, brave but scared, now hunted for helping him. Holt's reach was a vice, squeezing not just Marcus, but anyone who dared stand with him. He opened Lena's USB files again, finding a hidden note she'd tucked inside. Holt brags about owning Atlanta. Check his offshore accounts. Marcus's team traced the lead, uncovering a Cayman Islands shell company tied to Holt, funneled through next-gen biotech. The audit wasn't just a hit. It was Holt's insurance, a way to cripple Marcus while he played whistleblower. He sank onto the couch, tux half-buttoned, the gala looming like a trap. Hours ago, he'd felt on top. Holt exposed, Pinnacle reeling. Lena's drive a golden ticket. The emails had shifted the tide, Evelyn's groveling a sign he'd won. But Holt hadn't flinched. He'd bided his time, then slammed Marcus with a financial guillotine and terrorized Lena's family to silence her. The lobby's slur, the video's lies, the arrest's cuffs, they were child's play compared to this. Holt wasn't fighting for Pinnacle. He was fighting to erase Marcus, to prove a black man couldn't rise this high. Marcus stood, staring at his reflection. Nia's voice echoed, "Keep swinging." He'd go to the gala, deliver the speech, expose Holt's bribes. But Lena's text burned in his mind, a warning Holt played dirtier than he'd imagined. The audit could bankrupt him, and Lena's family was in the crosshairs. He'd thought he'd outmaneuvered the snake, but Holt's fangs were deeper, his venom spreading. Marcus grabbed his jacket, resolve hardening. He'd fight, but the cost was climbing, and the next blow might break more than his company. If Holt's betrayal has you boiling, comment number 1 to demand he pays for this cowardice. Like the video to stand with Marcus against a system rigged to crush him, and subscribe to see if justice can claw its way through this mess. Will Marcus's gala plan bury Holt, or has he walked into a trap he can't escape? Marcus Vaughn stood in his Atlanta hotel suite, the weight of the past week pressing against his ribs like a vice. Pinnacle Dynamics had tried to bury him, first with Tara Hensley's lobby slur, then a viral video, a staged arrest, and now a federal audit freezing Vaughn-Tech's accounts. His stock was hemorrhaging, clients were bolting, and Lena, the intern who'd risked everything to help, was in hiding after Holt's goons threatened her family. Gregory Holt, Pinnacle's COO, wasn't just fighting a corporate war, he was waging a crusade to erase Marcus's legacy. But Marcus hadn't clawed his way to a $9 billion empire by breaking. Tonight, at Pinnacle's biotech gala, he'd turn the tables, exposing Holt's corruption to Atlanta's elite. His phone buzzed with a text from Simone, his PR chief. NextGen's CEO wants to talk. Rival merger. Marcus's pulse quickened. NextGen, biotech, Pinnacle's competitor, had been circling since Holt's emails leaked, sniffing opportunity as Pinnacle wobbled. With Vaughn-Tech's cash flow choked by the audit, a new deal could be a lifeline. He called NextGen's head, Clara Nguyen, pitching hard. "Our AI diagnostics paired with your gene therapies could leapfrog Pinnacle," he said, voice steady. Despite the stakes, Clara was sharp, no nonsense, and by the call's end she'd agreed to draft terms. "Get through tonight," she said, "and we'll move fast." Marcus hung up, a spark of hope flaring. If Pinnacle's merger died, NextGen could keep Vaughn-Tech alive. He adjusted his tuxedo in the mirror, the black silk catching the light like armor. The gala was at the Fox Theater, a gilded relic of Atlanta's past, and Marcus had a plan. Lena's USB drive held proof of Holt's bribes, contractors paid to tank Pinnacle's rivals, black staff silenced with threats. Priya, his lawyer, had woven it into a speech that would gut Holt's reputation in front of 500 guests, including reporters hungry for blood. Evelyn Carter had texted, desperate, "Holt's out after tonight. Let's save the merger." Marcus didn't trust her, but her fear was leverage. He'd shame Pinnacle, secure NextGen, and walk away untouchable. The Fox Theater glittered under chandeliers, its red velvet seats packed with biotech moguls, city officials, and media. Marcus entered, heads turning, not with the lobby's sneers, but with curiosity, some respect. His press release and Holt's leaked emails had shifted the air. He wasn't just a victim now, but a player. Evelyn greeted him, her smile brittle, her silver gown too stiff for the heat. "Marcus, we're fixing this," she whispered, guiding him to the stage. "Holt's done." He nodded, scanning the crowd. Lena was there, near the back, her eyes wide but steady, giving him a subtle nod. Their plan was set. He'd speak. She'd leak more files to a journalist mid-speech, sealing Holt's fate. Marcus took the mic, his voice rolling through the hall like thunder. "Pinnacle Dynamics claims innovation, but what's their real product? Corruption." Gasps rippled as he detailed Holt's bribes, projecting Lena's memos on a massive screen. "This company buries talent, rigs deals, and calls it business," he said, eyes locking on Evelyn, who paled. "I came for a partnership, but I found a snake pit." The crowd erupted, clapping, some shouting support. Reporters scribbled. Cameras flashed, and social media lit up with Fraser Pinnacle exposed. Marcus stepped off stage, adrenaline surging. He'd done it. Holt was finished. Pinnacle shamed. Next Gen waiting in the wings. Evelyn caught him by the arm, her face flushed. "That was bold, Marcus. Let's close this deal." She handed him a contract thick with legalese, promising the merger's revival and Holt's termination. "Sign now, and we're partners by morning." Marcus hesitated, the crowd's roar still echoing in his ears. Priya wasn't there to review it. She'd been delayed by a flat tire, but Evelyn's urgency felt real, her eyes pleading. He skimmed the first page. Standard terms, merger reinstated, Holt out. His gut screamed caution, but the gala's triumph drowned it out. He signed, the pen heavy, and Evelyn's smile widened, almost too quick. "You won't regret this," she said, whisking the papers away. Marcus exhaled, thinking he'd secured his empire. The lobby's slur, the arrest's cuffs, none of it mattered now. He sipped a drink, watching guests congratulate him, their smiles a mix of awe and envy. Lena approached, her expression tight. "You killed it," she said, but her voice wavered. Her hands fidgeting. Marcus chalked it up to nerves. She'd risked her career for him. "We both did," he replied, clapping her shoulder. "Holt's done." She nodded, eyes darting away, and slipped into the crowd. Marcus frowned, a flicker of unease cutting through his high. Something was off, but before he could dwell, his phone rang. Priya, her tone frantic. "Marcus, don't sign anything. I just got the contract's fine print from a source. It's a trap." His stomach dropped as Priya explained. Buried in the contract was a clause ceding Vorntech's patents to Pinnacle if the merger failed for any reason. Evelyn could tank it tomorrow, claim breach, and steal his tech. Years of work, billions in value gone. Marcus's vision tunneled, the gala's lights blurring. He'd signed in triumph, thinking he'd won, but Evelyn had played him, or Holt had, or both. He scanned for Evelyn, but she'd vanished, her silver gown nowhere in sight. His phone buzzed again, a text from Simone. "Check Lena's socials. Now." Marcus opened Lena's profile, his breath catching. A post, time-stamped an hour ago, showed her grinning with Holt at a bar, captioned, "Big moves." Older posts linked her to Pinnacle's HR, not as an intern but a contractor, hired by Holt 6 months back. Another text from Simone. "She fed us fake leads. The USB was half-truths. To waste our time." Marcus's knees buckled, the crowd's chatter fading to a dull roar. Lena wasn't his ally. She was Holt's mole, planted to lure him into tonight's trap. Her cafe story, her trembling hands, that USB, it was all a lie, designed to keep him chasing shadows while Holt rigged the board. He stumbled toward the exit, needing air, but the theater doors burst open. Black-clad SWAT officers stormed in, rifles raised, shouting, "Marcus Vaughn, hands up!" The crowd screamed, scattering as Marcus froze, his tux suddenly stifling. "You're under arrest for bribing federal regulators," the lead cop barked, slamming him against a wall. Cuffs snapped on tighter than before as cameras rolled, another live stream, this one spiking to millions. The charge was absurd, tied to the audit Holt had triggered, but the cops had evidence, forged emails planted by Holt, showing Marcus wiring cash to the regulator. Guests gaped, some whispering, knew he was dirty. Marcus's eyes found Lena across the room, her face blank, no trace of guilt. She'd played him perfectly, feeding just enough truth to earn his trust, then yanking it away. The SWAT team dragged him through the theater, past shattered champagne flutes, into the humid night. The livestream comments burned into his mind. Black CEOs always cheat. Pinnacle dodged a bullet. Each word was a fresh cut, slicing deeper than Tara's slur or the squad car's stench. In the precinct, Priya fought for him, yelling about fabricated evidence, but the cops stonewalled. Marcus sat in a cell, the contract's ink still fresh. In his memory, he'd shamed Pinnacle, rallied Next Gen, thought he'd crushed Holt's game. The gala's applause had felt like victory, Evelyn's deal a lifeline. But Lena's betrayal and Holt's SWAT ambush had flipped it all, risking not just his company but his freedom. Holt wasn't fighting fair. He was fighting to destroy, using every racist trope to paint Marcus as a crook. As the cell door clanged, Marcus's mind raced. Nia's voice echoed, "Keep swinging." He'd been outplayed but not out. Lena was a pawn, Evelyn a wild card, and Holt's arrogance would be his crack. Marcus leaned against the cold wall, plotting his next move, knowing the real war was just beginning. Marcus Vaughn sat in the Atlanta precinct's holding cell, the cold steel bench biting into his thighs. His tuxedo, once sharp for Pinnacle Dynamics Gala, hung wrinkled, a mockery of the triumph he'd felt hours ago. The SWAT raid had crashed, his speech exposing Gregory Holt's corruption, cuffing him in front of a gasping crowd for bribing regulators. Lena's betrayal, her grin with Holt, her fake USB, burned worse than the forged emails pinning him as a crook. Vaughn-Tech's patents were at risk from a trap contract he'd signed, and his empire teetered under a federal audit. Holt's war wasn't just corporate, it was personal. A racist vendetta to crush a black man who dared rise too high. But Marcus hadn't survived decades of slights to crack now. Priya, his lawyer, burst into the cell block, her heels clicking like gunfire. "They've got nothing," she said, eyes blazing. "The bribery emails are sloppy. IP traces to a Pinnacle server, not yours." She'd spent the night tearing apart the evidence, finding metadata mismatches that screamed setup. By dawn, she'd filed a motion to dismiss, and the judge, wary of a PR nightmare, cut Marcus loose. He stepped into the precinct's lobby, rubbing his wrists, the cuff's ache a fresh scar. Reporters swarmed outside, but Priya shielded him, her voice sharp. "No comment. Our client's innocent." Marcus kept his head high, ignoring shouts of thug CEO from a heckler Holt had likely paid. Back at his hotel, Simone waited, her laptop open to Vaughn-Tech's crisis dashboard. "Stock's down 12 points, she said, voice tight. "But Priya's motion's trending. People smell a frame job." Marcus nodded, his mind already on the contract. He'd signed Evelyn's deal at the gala, thinking it saved the merger, only to learn it could hand his patents to Pinnacle. Priya joined them, tablet in hand. "I found a loophole," she said. "The contract's null if signed under duress. That raid, textbook coercion." She'd drafted an emergency filing to void it, citing the SWAT ambush. Marcus exhaled, a weight lifting. "File it," he said, "and hit Pinnacle hard." Priya grinned, a rare crack in her armor. "Already on it. I'm suing them for fraud, misrepresenting the contract, aiding Holt's smear. We'll demand their financials, expose every dirty deal." Marcus's team rallied, fueled by the win. Jamal, his hacker, was digging deeper into Holt's next-gen. Atai's chasing the Cayman accounts Lena's note had flagged. Simone prepped a new press release. Vaughn-Tech fights back against Pinnacle's deception. By noon, Priya's filing hit the courts, and the fraud suit made waves. Tech outlets ran headlines. Vaughn-Tech sues Pinnacle for millions. Pinnacle's stock tanked another 6 points, and Evelyn's frantic voicemail begged for a truce. "Marcus, let's talk. Holt's gone too far." Social media buzzed with support. A black professor posted, "They tried to cage Marcus Vaughn, but he's breaking free." Activists shared his bio, Decatur kid, self-taught coder, billionaire, by 35, drowning out the thug slurs. 2 clients paused their exit, swayed by the lawsuit's momentum. Holt's allies at Pinnacle started jumping ship. A VP leaked texts showing Holt's pressure to lie about Marcus. Marcus stood at his window, Atlanta's skyline sharp against the dusk. He'd dodged the raid, saved his patents, and put Pinnacle on its knees. For the first time in days, he felt the tide turning. Nia's words echoed, "Keep swinging." He was swinging, and Holt was bleeding. But as he poured a coffee, his phone chimed with an unknown number. He answered, expecting a reporter, but a distorted voice rasped, "Check your email, Vaughn." His screen lit up with an audio file anonymously sent. He played it, and his own voice, chopped, unnatural, filled the room. "I paid the SEC to look the other way. Vaughn-Tech's clean, but money talks." Marcus's blood ran cold. It was fake, stitched from old interviews, but flawless to untrained ears. Within minutes, the file hit social media, posted by a burner account tied to Pinnacle's network. The caption read, "Vaughn confesses to insider trading." The backlash was instant. Hashtags flipped. A Vaughn the fraud surged past Rao's takedown Holt. Commenters piled on, knew he was shady. Black CEOs always cut corners. Marcus's stock plunged another 10 points, a freefall that wiped out billions. His board called an emergency meeting, their texts blunt. "Step aside, Marcus, save what's left." Simone's dashboard flashed red. 3 more clients gone, suppliers cutting ties. Then Priya called, her voice grim. "The SEC's opening a probe. That audio's got them spooked. We can fight it, but it'll take months." Marcus gripped the phone, his victory dissolving like ash. He opened his laptop, ready to trace the audio, when a news alert popped up. His sister Keisha, a pediatrician in Decatur, had been doxxed, her clinic's address, phone, even her home, plastered online by a hate group. The article showed photos. Her office spray-painted with slurs, windows smashed. "Go back to the hood," scrawled in red. Keisha's tearful quote gutted him. "I just wanted to help kids. Why us?" Marcus's hands shook, rage and guilt colliding. He dragged her into Holt's war, his success a lightning rod for her pain. He called her, voice breaking. "I'm fixing this, Kesh," she whispered. "Be careful, Mark. They're not stopping." As he hung up, his phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. He answered, and Holt's voice, smooth and venomous, slithered through. "You thought you'd win, Vaughn. I bury every black wannabe tycoon who thinks they're me. Your sister's just the start." The line went dead, a burner phone, untraceable. Marcus stared at the skyline, Holt's words a blade in his gut. The lawsuit had rocked Pinnacle, the contract was void, and the SWAT charge was dust. He'd clawed back control, felt the crowds roar at the gala, seen Evelyn squirm. But Holt had waited, then struck with a cruelty Marcus hadn't fathomed. His board's Zoom call blinked on his screen, faces grim. "Marcus, the SEC probes a death sentence," one said. "Resign or we vote you out." He muted them, mind racing. Keisha's clinic trashed, his stock cratering, Holt's taunt, a promise of more blood. The audio wasn't just a smear. It was a signal Holt played for keeps, using Marcus's race to paint him as a cheat, a threat, a nobody. Tara's lobby sneer had been the spark, but Holt was the inferno, burning everything Marcus loved. He stood, pacing, Nia's voice faint but steady. "Keep swinging." Priya texted, "Audio's fake, but we need time. Hold tight." Marcus nodded to himself, resolve hardening. Holt thought he'd broken him, but every rigged loan, every boardroom slight had taught Marcus one truth: survive the hit, find the crack. He opened Jamal's latest hack, NextGen's financials tied to Holt's offshore cash. The lawsuit would push forward, but Keisha's pain, the SEC's noose, those were personal. Holt had drawn a line, and Marcus would cross it whatever the cost. If Holt's viciousness makes your blood boil, comment number 1 to demand he faces the fire he's lit. Like this video to rally behind Marcus's fight against a hate-fueled empire, and subscribe to see if he can rise from these ashes. Has Holt's cruelty pushed Marcus too far, or will he find a way to turn this nightmare into payback? Marcus Vaughn stood in his Atlanta hotel suite, the city's skyline a mocking backdrop to his unraveling world. His wrists still ached from cuffs, first the staged arrest, then the SWAT raid at Pinnacle Dynamics Gala. Holt's doctored audio, framing him for insider trading, had sparked an SEC probe, tanking VaughnTech's stock 15 points. His sister Keisha's clinic lay in ruins, slurs spray-painted across its walls, her life doxed by Holt's hate machine. Gregory Holt's taunt, "I bury every black wannabe tycoon," echoed like a death knell, but Marcus hadn't built a $9 billion empire to crumble. The lobby's slur, Lena's betrayal, the audit's chokehold, they'd bloodied him, but he was still standing, and today he'd hit back harder. Simone, his PR chief, sat at the suite's desk, her laptop streaming real-time data. The audios. "Fake," she said, eyes fierce. "Jamal cracked its metadata, stitched from your TED Talk, hosted on Pinnacle's backup server." Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. Holt's sloppiness was a crack and he'd pry it wide. Priya, his lawyer, was already drafting a motion to discredit the file, citing its origin. By noon, they'd leaked the proof to Reuters. Vaughn Tech CEO cleared of fraud, Pinnacle's dirty tricks exposed. The story exploded, with outlets slamming Holt's desperate smear. Social media flipped again. Vaughn vindicated trending as users posted his journey, Decatur coder to biotech king, undeterred by bias. Marcus seized the momentum, calling, "Priya, get a court order," he said. "We're taking Pinnacle's servers." She hesitated, then grinned. "Bold. I'm on it." Hours later, a judge, swayed by the audio's fraud, granted a warrant to raid Pinnacle's IT core seeking evidence of Holt's schemes. Marcus's team coordinated with feds, who descended on Pinnacle's headquarters at dusk. Employees gawked as agents carted out drives, Marcus watching from his hotel via live feed. The raid uncovered Holt's digital fingerprints, emails bribing regulators, memos burying black staff complaints. Evelyn Carter, Pinnacle's CEO, called, her voice cracking. "Marcus Holt suspended. This ends now." Pinnacle's stock cratered 8 points, investors fleeing the scandal. Board members leaked Holt's internal rants, painting him as a tyrant. 2 executives resigned, citing ethical breaches. Marcus's stock clawed back 3 points, and a client emailed, hinting at staying if the probe lifted. Simone's dashboard showed Chowan Pinnacle collapsing, spiking, with supporters rallying, Vaughn's exposing the rot. A black tech founder tweeted, "They tried to erase him, but Marcus is unstoppable." Marcus stood at his window, Atlanta's, lights flickering like hope. He'd killed the audio lie, seized Holt's secrets and forced Evelyn's hand. The lobby's shame, Tara's get lost, felt distant, Holt's empire cracking under his push. He poured a glass of water, letting himself believe he'd turned the tide. Priya's lawsuit from yesterday was gaining steam, demanding Pinnacle's financials to trace Holt's next-gen deals. The server raid had rattled Evelyn, her suspension of Holt a white flag. Marcus pictured Nia's smile, Keisha's relief when he'd fixed this. He'd dodged the Gala's trap, saved his patents, and now held Pinnacle's throat. Holt was a snake, but a cornered one, fangs dulled. Or so he thought. His phone buzzed with a news alert, and his gut twisted. "Vaughn Tech linked to cyber attack on Pinnacle Labs," the headline screamed. Marcus clicked, heart racing. At 3 a.m., Pinnacle's research servers had crashed, wiping years of gene editing data. The attack was traced to a VPN tied to Vaughn Tech's cloud, with logs showing Marcus's login. His screen flashed with updates. Regulators fined Vaughn Tech $10 million for industrial sabotage, and Pinnacle sued, claiming catastrophic losses. Marcus's stock plummeted 12 points, in minutes erasing fragile gains. Clients cut ties, one emailing, "We can't risk this chaos." He called Jamal, voice sharp. "Tell me this isn't us." Jamal's panic crackled through. "It's not. Our cloud's clean. Someone planted the logs." Marcus's mind raced. Holt again. The raid had hit him, so he'd struck back, framing Marcus as a cybercriminal. Simone pulled up social media where hate surged. "Vaughn's a hacker now. Black CEOs ruin everything." The narrative flipped, his vindication buried under fresh lies. Marcus's board texted, "Meeting now. This is over." His COO, Raj, called, voice heavy. "I'm out, Marcus. I can't lose my career to this." Raj hung up, his resignation email landing seconds later, a gut punch from a friend Marcus trusted. As he processed Raj's exit, a new alert hit. Mob attacks Vaughn Tech's Atlanta office. Footage showed a crowd, 50 strong, faces twisted, smashing windows, torching files, chanting, "No place for crooks." Slurs flew, thug and worse, spray-painted on the walls. Police stood back, arms crossed, letting it burn. Marcus recognized faces from Holt's leaked memos, hired muscle, whipped into a frenzy by disinformation Holt had seeded online. His office, a symbol of his grind, was rubble, employees fleeing in terror. Keisha texted, frantic, "They're outside my house now. Help." Marcus's knees buckled, rage and dread colliding. He called 911, but the operator brushed him off. "We're handling it," her tone cold. Holt's reach was a noose, tightening around his family, his legacy. Simone handed him a tablet, her face pale. Found this on a dark web forum. It was a PDF titled The Reckoning, authored by Holt. Marcus skimmed, bile rising. The manifesto railed against uppity black CEOs, calling them parasites who steal white empires. It outlined a plan to cleanse Atlanta's tech scene, starting with Marcus. Frame him, bankrupt him, erase him. Holt's words were venom. Vaughn thinks he's king, but I'll burn his throne. The document listed tactics, fake audits, planted evidence, mobs. All playing out now. Marcus's breath hitched, the scope of Holt's hate staggering. This wasn't about Pinnacle or Next Gen. It was a racial purge. Marcus's success, a trigger for Holt's obsession. He forwarded the manifesto to Priya, who texted back, "This is dynamite, we'll use it." But Marcus knew it was late. His office smoldered, Keisha hid, Raj was gone. The raid's triumph, Evelyn's groveling, his stocks flicker of hope. They were ashes. Holt hadn't just countered. He'd escalated to war, physical and primal. He stood staring at the skyline, Holt's manifesto searing his mind. Hours ago he'd felt unstoppable, servers seized, Holt on the ropes. He'd outsmarted the audio, rallied his team, thought he'd won. But Holt had planned deeper, turning Marcus's race into a weapon. Cyber attacker, mob target, black menace. Tara's sneer in the lobby had been a spark. Holt's hate was the blaze, consuming everything. Marcus's phone buzzed. Keisha, safe. For now, but shaken. "I'm fighting," he texted back, voice breaking inside. Priya called, her tone urgent. "The fine's appealable, but the mob's damage is done. We need to pivot." Marcus nodded, mind racing. Holt's manifesto was proof, but proof took time and time was blood. His COO's betrayal stung, the mob's slurs cut, but Naya's words held, "Keep swinging." He opened Jamal's latest hack, Next Gen's board minutes, hinting Holt's next move. The lawsuit would push, but Holt's war was on the streets now, and Marcus had to fight there too or lose it all. Marcus Vaughn stood in the dim light of his Atlanta hotel suite, the skyline outside a cruel reminder of his crumbling empire. Pinnacle Dynamics' war had left scars. Tara Hensley's lobby slur, a viral video, staged arrests, a gala betrayal. By Lena, a doctored audio and a mob torching his office with slurs. Gregory Holt's manifesto, railing against uppity black CEOs, had laid bare his genocidal hate, with Marcus as target one. Vaughn Tech's stock was in freefall, down 20 points, clients gone, his COO fled, and his sister Keisha's clinic a vandalized wreck. Holt's latest blow, a framed cyber attack on Pinnacle's labs, had cost Marcus a $10 million fine, his name smeared as a saboteur. But Marcus hadn't built a $9 billion empire to surrender. Holt's hate was a fire. Marcus would be the storm to douse it. His phone buzzed with a text from Simone, his PR chief. "Senator Ellis wants a meet, now." Marcus's pulse quickened. Ellis, a Georgia heavyweight with a civil rights streak, had seen Holt's manifesto leak and smelled blood. Marcus met her at a discreet midtown diner, its vinyl booths empty save for her sharp-eyed aide. Ellis, silver-haired and steely, cut straight to it. "Holt's tied to hate groups," she said, sliding him a folder. "Militias, dark money. My teams tracked donations to his offshore accounts." Marcus flipped through, photos of Holt. At a rally, checks linked to a group called White Dawn. "I'll push a federal probe," Ellis said. "You in?" Marcus nodded, his voice low. "All the way." Back at the hotel, he handed the folder to Priya, his lawyer. "This buries Holt," she said, eyes gleaming. They strategized fast. Ellis would lean on the FBI. Marcus's team would feed her Jamal's hacks, tying Holt's next-gen deals to militia funds. By dawn, Priya had filed a motion to expand their Pinnacle lawsuit, alleging racketeering. Simone blasted a press release. Vaughn Tech demands justice, Holt's hate exposed. The story hit like a bomb. Outlets ran headlines. Pinnacle COO linked to extremists. Social media erupted. Holt's hate trending as activists posted Holt's manifesto quotes, "Vaughn's kind don't belong." Pinnacle's stock plunged 9 points. Investors fleeing a sinking ship. Ellis moved like lightning. By noon, FBI agents swarmed Holt's Buckhead mansion, hauling out laptops and files. Live feeds showed Holt in cuffs, his face twisted, shouting, "About witch hunts." Pinnacle's board, spooked, called an emergency meeting. Evelyn Carter, her voice shaking in a leaked audio, announced Holt's ouster. He's no longer COO, effective immediately. Employees cheered online, leaking more dirt. Holt's slurs in meetings, black staff demoted. Marcus's stock ticked up 4 points. A fragile pulse and a client paused their exit, citing new developments. Simone's dashboard glowed with support. Vaughn's saving Atlanta's soul. A black coder tweeted, "They tried to burn him, but Marcus rises." Marcus stood at his window, the skyline softening in the dusk. The FBI raid, Holt's fall, Pinnacle's chaos. It felt like checkmate. He'd allied with Ellis, turned Holt's hate into a noose, and saved Vaughn Tech from the cyber attack's shadow. Keisha called, her voice lighter. "Cops are patrolling my street now. You did this, Mark." He smiled, picturing Nia's pride. The lobby's sting, Lena's knife, the mob's flames. They'd hurt, but he'd struck back, his empire still. Breathing, he thought he'd caged the snake, that Holt's venom was spent. But as he sipped coffee, a news alert shattered the calm. Vaughn Tech AI linked to hospital deaths. His heart stopped as he read. Across Georgia, Vaughn Tech's diagnostics had misdiagnosed dozens, labeling cancers as benign, heart defects as clear. 5 patients were dead, others critical. Hospitals flooded with lawsuits. The report pinned it on a malicious hack traced to Marcus's personal login. His screen flashed with footage, grieving families, doctors raging, one shouting, "Vaughn's Tech killed my patient." Social media turned feral. "Black menace strikes again. He's no CEO, he's a murderer." Marcus called Jamal, voice hoarse. "Tell me this isn't real." Jamal's panic crackled. "It's
not us."
Someone rewrote our code, deep-level access planted overnight. Marcus's mind screamed Holt. The manifesto's cleanse wasn't just talk. He'd hacked Vaughn Tech's core, turning Marcus's life's work into a weapon. Lawsuits piled up, 10 billion in claims, dwarfing the cyber attack fine. His stock crashed 18 points, a death spiral. The SEC probe tightened, citing gross negligence. His board emailed, "Resign by dawn, or we liquidate." Nia called, her voice trembling. "Mark, they're blaming you for kids dying. We need to leave Atlanta." Marcus's chest ached. She'd never sounded scared before. "I can't run," he said, though doubt gnawed him. Keisha texted, "Clinics, getting threats again. Stay safe." The hate was back, sharper, bloodier. Holt's manifesto alive in every slur online. Vaughn's poison. He opened his laptop, tracing the hack, but Jamal's team hit walls. Holt's coder was a ghost, untouchable. Marcus's vision blurred, the raid's triumph fading. He'd thought Holt was done, but the snake had fangs left. Desperate, he drove to a dive bar in East Atlanta, tipped off by a burner text, "Holt's here." Alone. The place stank of stale beer, neon buzzing over cracked tables. Holt sat in a corner, nursing a whiskey, his suit rumpled, eyes glinting like a predator's. Marcus approached, fists clenched. "You killed people," he growled. Holt laughed, low and vicious. "You killed yourself, Vaughn. Signing that contract, trusting that girl, pathetic." He leaned closer, breath sour. "Tomorrow cops will pin a murder on you. My guy's got your prints on a knife." Marcus froze, Holt's words a blade. A murder frame, beyond hacks, beyond mobs. Holt's manifesto flashed in his mind. Erase him. This wasn't business. It was annihilation. Marcus's race, the fuel for Holt's fire. "You're done," Marcus said, voice shaking. Holt smirked. "I own this city. You're just a glitch." He stood, tossing cash on the table, and vanished into the night. Marcus's phone buzzed. "Priya. Cops found a body. Your name's in the report." He drove back, heart pounding, the skyline a blur. Hours ago, he'd felt invincible. Holt cuffed, Pinnacle cracking, Ellis's probe a hammer. The FBI's haul, Evelyn's surrender, his stock's pulse. They'd promised victory. But Holt had planned deeper, hacking lives, not just servers. Patient deaths weren't collateral. They were Holt's endgame. Marcus's race twisted into a killer's mask. Tara's sneer, Lena's grin, the mob's slurs. They'd built to this. Holt's hate, now lethal. Nia's plea rang, "Leave!" But Marcus gripped the wheel. Holt's. Laugh in his ears, he'd fight. But the cost was tearing him apart. If Holt's murderous plot has you reeling, comment number 1 to demand his empire burns for this blood. Like this video to stand with Marcus against a hate that kills, and subscribe to see if he can outrun this deadly frame. Will Marcus dodge Holt's final knife, or has this snake's venom already claimed too much? Marcus Vaughn sped through Atlanta's pre-dawn streets, his SUV's tires humming against the asphalt. Holt's barroom torn to splinter in his mind. "Cops'll pin a murder on you." The dive bar confrontation had laid bare Gregory Holt's endgame, not just to ruin Marcus but to erase him, his black success a threat to Holt's warped vision. VaughnTech's diagnostics hack, killing 5 patients, had branded Marcus a menace, with lawsuits piling billions high. His stock was a carcass down 30 points. His sister Keisha's clinic a target of hate, and Nia's plea to flee echoed like a warning unheeded. Pinnacle Dynamics war, Tara's lobby slur, Lena's betrayal, staged arrests, had escalated to Holt's manifesto promising a cleanse. But Marcus, forged in Decatur's grind, wasn't done. Holt's slip about a murder frame was a crack, and Marcus would blow it wide open. Back at his hotel, he called Simone, his PR chief, voice low. "I recorded Holt at the bar. He bragged about framing me for murder." Simone sucked in a breath. "That's nuclear. Leak it?" Marcus nodded, uploading the audio to a secure drive. Jamal, his hacker, scrubbed its metadata to protect the source, and by sunrise, Simone sent it to every major outlet. The headline hit like a grenade. Pinnacle KO confesses to framing VaughnTech CEO. Holt's voice, slurred but clear, played on loop. "My guy's got your prints on a knife." Protests erupted outside Pinnacle's headquarters, hundreds, chanting "Justice for Vaughn." Social media exploded. Dire Holt exposed, drowning out the hack's hate. A black activist posted, "They tried to kill his name, but Marcus fights back." The fallout was swift. Priya, Marcus's lawyer, used the audio to crush the murder charge. Cops, red-faced, dropped it by noon, admitting tainted evidence. The SEC probe stalled, investigators spooked by Holt's confession. Pinnacle's stock plummeted 12 points, its board scrambling to distance themselves. Evelyn Carter's statement was a plea. "Pinnacle condemns Holt's actions. We're cooperating fully." Marcus's stock clawed back 5 points, AECEA, faint pulse, and a client emailed hinting at talks if the chaos cleared. Marcus stood at his window, the skyline aglow with dawn. The protests, the dropped charge. It felt like a lifeline. He'd exposed Holt's soul, turned his own pain into a weapon. Keisha texted, "Crowds at City Hall now, you're winning." He allowed himself a breath, picturing Naya's relief when he'd call her. The FBI's raid yesterday, Senator Ellis's. Probe, his lawsuit, they'd cracked Holt's armor. Tara's sneer, the gala's cuffs, the hospital deaths. Each blow had tested him, but he'd swung back, and Holt was bleeding. Marcus thought he'd shifted the war, that Holt's bar slip was the fatal mistake. He grabbed his phone to strategize with Priya, but a news alert stopped him cold. VaughnTech data center bombed in Atlanta. His heart seized as he clicked. His Marietta facility, housing AI backups, was rubble, a smoking crater caught on drone footage. The report detailed a timed explosive, detonated at 3 a.m., wiping every server. No casualties, but VaughnTech's diagnostics, the heart of his empire, were gone. Unrecoverable without months of rebuild. Insurers dropped coverage, citing terrorism risk, leaving Marcus exposed to billions in losses. The stock crashed. Another 15 points, a death knell. Clients severed ties, one emailing at "We're out, too unstable." Social media reignited hate. Vaughn's a curse. Black tech destroys everything. Marcus called Jamal, voice raw. "How'd this happen?" Jamal's reply was grim. "No digital trace, physical breach, Holt's people." Marcus's mind raced. Holt, striking from the shadows, his manifestos, burn his throne now. Literal. The bombing wasn't random, it was surgical, killing his tech to bury him. He paced, the skyline blurring, when his phone rang, an unknown number. A gruff voice rasped, "We've got your wife. Retract the audio leak or Nia's dead." Marcus froze, the room spinning. "Proof," he choked out. A photo pinged. Nia gagged, tied in a warehouse, her eyes wide with fear. The voice laughed. 24 hours, Vaughn, no cops." His knees buckled, Nia's image searing his soul. He called Priya, voice shaking. "They've got Nia. Holt's militia." Priya cursed, promising to trace the call, but Marcus couldn't. "Wait." He texted Simone, pulling Jamal's dark web contacts for warehouse leads. By dusk, they pinpointed a derelict site in West End, tied to Holt's shell company. Marcus drove alone, ignoring Priya's warning. "It's a trap." His gun, a licensed Glock, tucked in his jacket. Nia's life was the line, and he'd cross it. The warehouse loomed, its rusted walls lit by a single bulb. Marcus crept inside, heart pounding, spotting Nia tied to a chair, 2 armed men nearby. He raised his hands, shouting, "I'm here! Let her go!" The men sneered, one spitting. Black King falls tonight. But before they could move, sirens wailed. Cops, tipped by Holt, swarmed the lot. Gunfire erupted, chaos swallowing the plan. A bullet grazed Marcus's arm, pain searing as he dove for Nia. He cut her ropes, her sobs breaking him, but a cop mistook him for the threat, firing again. Nia screamed, pulling him behind crates, and they bolted through a side door as bullets flew. They stumbled into an alley, Nia trembling but alive. Marcus held her, blood soaking his sleeve, whispering, "You're safe." She nodded, tears falling, but his phone buzzed. A note slipped into his pocket during the chaos. Holt's handwriting scrawled, "This city's mine." Marcus's blood ran cold. Holt had planned the raid's failure, leaking the location to cops, turning Marcus's rescue into a trap. Social media already spun it. Vaughn flees shootout. Guilty. The protests faded, replaced by Vaughn's terror hashtags. His stock hit zero, board members voting to liquidate. Nia gripped his hand, her voice steady despite fear. "We'll rebuild." But Marcus saw the skyline differently. Now its lights, Holt's eyes watching, laughing. Hours ago he'd felt victorious. The audio leak, protests, dropped charge. He'd thought Holt was broken, his bar confession a fatal slip. But Holt had baited him, bombing his legacy, stealing Nia, rigging the rescue to frame him anew. Tara's, lobby hate, Lena's grin, the hospital deaths. They'd built to this, Holt's militia a blade at his throat. Marcus drove Nia to safety, arm throbbing, Holt's note burning in his pocket. He'd saved her, but the war was bloodier, and Holt's next move loomed like death itself. Marcus Vaughn hunched over a laptop in a nondescript Atlanta motel, the room's stale air heavy with the weight of his unraveling life. Holt's war had left him battered. Tara Hensley's lobby slur at Pinnacle Dynamics had spiraled into viral. Smears, staged arrests, hospital deaths, and a bombed data center. Nia's kidnapping, her terrified eyes in that warehouse, haunted him, though she was safe now, recovering at a friend's under guard. Vaughn Tech's stock was a ghost, down. 40 points, its servers ash, insurers gone. Gregory Holt's note, "This city's mine," burned in Marcus's pocket, a taunt from a man whose racist manifesto vowed to cleanse Marcus's success. But Marcus, forged in Decatur's grit, hadn't broken yet. Holt was still out. There, and Marcus would drag him down no matter the cost. He sipped lukewarm coffee, his arm throbbing where a cop's bullet had grazed him during Nia's rescue. Simone, his PR chief, had secured this hideout after the shootout, with cops and media circling his hotel like vultures. Jamal, his hacker, was rebuilding Vaughn Tech's cloud from encrypted fragments, a desperate bid to save their diagnostics. Marcus's phone buzzed, a text from Lena, the intern who'd betrayed him at the gala, now claiming remorse. "I know where Holt's hiding. Let me help." He stared at it, mistrust warring with necessity. Lena's grin with Holt, her fake USB, had cost him everything, patents, freedom, lives. But her tip about Holt's bar meat had panned out, and Marcus was running out of moves. He called her, voice cold. "Why should I trust you?" Lena's reply trembled. "I was scared, Marcus. Holt threatened my brother. I'm done with him." She offered a lead, A safe house in Stone Mountain tied to Holt's militia, White Dawn. Marcus hesitated, Naya's warning, "Don't trust anyone," ringing loud. But Holt's bombing had killed his backups, and the murder frame loomed. He texted Lena, "Coordinates. Now." She sent an address, adding, "I'm sorry. Marcus didn't reply, forwarding it to Priya, his lawyer. "Get this to Ellis," he said. Senator Ellis's FBI probe was his last card, and Holt's hideout could end this. Jamal burst in, eyes wild. "We've got partial servers up. 10% of the diagnostics." Marcus nodded, a flicker of hope. If they could restore data, lawsuits might pause, clients might wait. He and Lena worked remotely, her coding skills sharp despite her betrayal. She flagged Holt's digital trail, burner phones pinging the safe house, tied to NextGen's shell accounts. Marcus's team cross-checked, confirming White Dawn's lease on the property. Priya called, voice urgent. Ellis pulled strings. FBI's raiding now. Marcus watched a live feed from a hacked drone. Agent stormed a ramshackle cabin, dragging Holt out, his face bruised but sneering. The arrest hit like lightning. Outlets blared, Pinnacle ex-COO nabbed in militia probe. Social media roared. Holt caught trending as protesters chanted outside City Hall. Pinnacle's stock tanked 15 points, its board resigning en masse. Evelyn Carter's video apology went viral, her eyes hollow. Pinnacle failed Atlanta. Vorntech's stock twitched up 6 points, a faint heartbeat, and 2 clients. Emailed, open to talks if Marcus cleared his name. Simone's dashboard glowed with support. Vaughn's breaking chains. A black pastor tweeted, "They caged him, but Marcus soars." Marcus exhaled, the motel's walls less suffocating. Holt's cuffs, Pinnacle's collapse. It felt like justice, hard won. Lena's tip had delivered, her guilt a bridgeback. He pictured Nia's smile, Keisha's relief, his empire salvageable. The lobby's hate, the gala's trap, the bombings. Smoke. They'd scarred him, but he'd pushed through. Holt's manifesto no match for his will. He thought he'd finally trapped the snake, its venom drained. He stood ready to call Nia when a news alert shattered the quiet. Atlanta revokes Vorntech contracts, CITES public safety. His stomach lurched as he read. City Hall, led by a council tied to Holt's donors, had yanked every municipal deal, from hospital diagnostics to school health scans. The order, stamped overnight, called Marcus a proven risk, citing the bombing, hack deaths, and community unrest. Losses hit $1 billion, gutting Vorntech's cash. His stock crashed 10 points, erasing gains. Priya texted, "Holt's cronies. We'll sue, but it's bad." Marcus's vision blurred. City Hall wasn't random. Holt had rigged it, even from a cell. Then another alert. Protesters burn Vorntech billboards. Footage showed crowds, hired faces from Holt's militia memos, torching his ads across Atlanta, chanting, "No black kings here." Slurs flew, thug, and worse, spray-painted over Marcus's face. Cops watched, smirking, as flames licked the sky. Social media spun it. Vaughn's reign ends. Atlanta's done with him. Marcus's heart sank. Holt's hate, alive in every shout, turned his name to ash. Keisha called, sobbing. "My clinic's done, Mark. Bank pulled. The loan." They saw the protests. He gripped the phone, her pain cutting deeper than his own. Keisha's dream built to save kids was bankrupt, Holt's shadow strangling it. "I'll fix it," he said, voice breaking but doubt gnawed. His office, clinic, stock, gone. Nia was safe. But for how long? Then Simone handed him a tablet, face grim. Holt leaked this from jail. It was a mugshot Marcus at 17, nabbed for a joyride he didn't commit, cleared in hours. The caption, posted by a White Dawn account, read, "Vaughn's always been a crook." Media ate it up, spinning his youth as proof. Decatur kid, not billionaire, just a lifelong thug. Comments flooded. Knew he was trouble. Black CEOs don't belong. Marcus's allies wavered. Clients ghosted. A board member resigned, citing optics. Even Simone's voice shook. "We're bleeding, Marcus. What's next?" He stared at the mugshot. Holt's jailbound strike a masterstroke. The FBI's cuffs had felt final, Lena's help a redemption, his stock's pulse a lifeline. He'd rebuilt servers, thought he'd won, but Holt's reach, City Hall, mobs, leaks, proved otherwise. His manifesto's cleanse a living curse. Tara's sneer, the bombing's blast, the hospital's dead. They'd led here, Holt's hate twisting Marcus's past to bury his future. He stood, pacing, Nia's words faint. "Keep swinging." Lena texted, "I'm clean now. Let me dig more." Marcus didn't reply, trust fractured. Priya called, "City Hall's suable, but Holt's untouchable in custody." Marcus nodded, mind racing. Holt's mugshot stunt was a taunt, daring him to fight. Jamal's latest hack, NextGen's donor lists, hinted at Holt's next play, but Keisha's loss, the burning signs, weighed like iron. He'd saved Nia, cuffed Holt, but the war was shifting, Holt's hate a tide Marcus might not outrun. Marcus Vaughn sat in the dim motel room, the hum of Atlanta's skyline a distant taunt through the cracked blinds. His empire was in tatters, Vaughn Tech's servers bombed, stock obliterated, clients gone. Pinnacle Dynamics war had escalated, from Tara Hensley's lobby slur to hospital deaths, Nia's kidnapping, and Keisha's bankrupted clinic, all fueled by Gregory Holt's racist manifesto to cleanse Marcus's success. Holt's latest blow, a leaked childhood mugshot, had painted him a lifelong crook, with City Hall revoking contracts and mobs burning his billboards chanting slurs. Lena's help had led to Holt's arrest, but his jail-bound reach crushed Marcus's fleeting win. Yet Marcus, forged in Decatur's fire, gripped one truth. Holt's hate thrived in shadows, and he'd drag it into the light, even if it cost everything. His phone buzzed with a text from Simone, his PR chief. "City Hall's dirty, check this." Attached was a hacked email chain, council members tied to Holt's next-gen donors, admitting they'd spiked Vaughn Tech's contracts for optics. Marcus's pulse surged. This was ammo. He called Priya, his lawyer, voice steady despite exhaustion. "Leak it to Ellis, all of it." Senator Ellis, his ally, had the FBI primed from Holt's safehouse bust. Priya moved fast, funneling the emails to Ellis's team, who blasted them to the press by dawn. The headline hit like a sledgehammer. Atlanta Council rigged against Vaughn Tech. Corruption exposed. Protests swelled outside City Hall, thousands chanting, "Clean the system." Outlets ran exposés, naming Holt's cronies. Councilman Burke, a White Dawn donor, caught demanding kickbacks. Social media roared. Atlanta exposed trending as users posted Marcus's journey. Coda, billionaire, target. A black nurse tweeted, "They burned his signs, but Vaughn's truth shines." The feds launched a probe, raiding Burke's office, seizing phones. Burke resigned by noon, 2 others followed, their faces ashen on live feeds. Pinnacle's stock hit rock bottom, down 20 points, its bankruptcy filing leaked, an hour from official. Evelyn Carter's voicemail begged, "Marcus, call me, we're done." Marcus stood, motel shadows softening. The probe, Pinnacle's collapse. It felt like vengeance, hard-earned. Vaughn Tech's stock flickered up 8 points, a ghost of hope, and a client texted, "Open to renegotiating." Keisha called, voice lighter. "They're arresting the vandals, Mark. You're turning it." Nia, safe but shaken, texted, "Proud of you. Come home." He pictured her eyes, steady despite the warehouse terror, Tara's sneer, Lena's betrayal. The bombing's smoke. They'd broken bones, but not his will. Holt's allies were fleeing. Pinnacle was ash. He thought he'd ended it, caged the snake for good. He packed his laptop, ready to join Nia, when a news alert flashed. "Holt. Escapes federal custody." His blood froze as he read. A transport van crash, guards bribed, Holt gone by midnight. Marcus's phone buzzed. Jamal checked dark web. A post, White Dawn's logo, claimed Holt's final strike. Then another alert. Vaughn Tech CEO tied to data center bombing. Forged docs, planted by Holt, showed Marcus wiring funds to mercenaries, his signature faked on bomb schematics. Media spun it. Vaughn's terror plot confirmed. Social media erupted. Black Butcher strikes again. End him. Marcus's stock zeroed out, board members voting to dissolve Vaughn Tech. Priya called, frantic. "It's fabricated, but feds are biting. Holt's too good." Marcus barely hung up when his motel TV blared, Mob storms Vaughan Tech CEO's home. Footage showed 100 strong, Holt's militia faces from leaked memos, smashing his Buckhead house, Molotovs lighting the night. Slurs roared, "No Black Kings!" Cops stood back, radios silent. Marcus's heart stopped. Nia was there against his orders, packing their life. He sped across town, tires screeching, Glock in his glove box. The skyline blurred, Holt's note, "This city's mine," a scream in his head. He reached the house, flames licking the roof, mob chanting his name like a curse. Marcus charged in, shoving through, shouting, "Nia!" Glass shattered, fists swung. He fought back, knuckles bloody, taking down two before a bat cracked his shoulder. Pain exploded, but he pushed forward, finding Nia in the den, cornered, a man raising a gun. Marcus tackled him, the shot going wide, but another fired. Nia screamed, blood blooming on her chest. She collapsed, Marcus catching her, his world narrowing to her fading pulse. "Stay with me," he choked, pressing her wound, blood soaking. His hands. The mob surged, but sirens wailed, cops late scattering them. Marcus carried Nia to an ambulance, her breath shallow, medics shouting vitals. He rode with her, vision tunneling, Holt's escape a blade in his gut. At the hospital, doctors rushed her to surgery, leaving Marcus in a sterile hall, his shirt crimson, shoulders screaming. His phone buzzed. "Lena, Holt's at the old mill." I followed him. Marcus's mistrust flared, but her safe house tip had worked. He texted Priya, who alerted the FBI, then drove, pain be damned. The mill loomed, a decaying husk by the Chattahoochee. Marcus crept in, spotting Holt, pacing, a burner phone in hand. "You lose, Vaughn," Holt sneered, eyes glinting. "Your wife's blood, your empire's dust, I win." Marcus lunged, but Lena appeared, tackling Holt, her scream raw. "No more." She pinned him, Marcus grabbing his gun, till FBI agents stormed in, cuffing Holt, his laugh chilling. Marcus stumbled out, Holt's taunt ringing, "I win." Nia was critical, Vaughan Tech dead, his home ash. The probe had crushed City Hall, Pinnacle was bankrupt, wins he'd bled for. Hours ago, he'd seen Holt's end, felt Keisha's hope, Nia's love. But Holt's escape, the mob, Nia's blood, they'd gutted him, his race Holt's weapon, from Tara's slur to this lynch mob. Lena's save was a flicker, but Marcus's world was cinders, and Holt, even cuffed, grinned like he'd already won. Marcus Vaughan sat in the sterile glow of Atlanta General's ICU, the beep of Nia's heart, monitor a fragile thread holding him together. Her chest rose and fell, tubes snaking from her arms, her face pale under the bandages. The lynch mob's bullet, Holt's final strike, had torn through her lung, leaving her in a coma, doctors unsure if she'd wake. Marcus's hand gripped hers, his knuckles raw from fighting off attackers at their burning Buckhead home. Vaughan Tech was dead, its stock zeroed, servers bombed, clients gone. Pinnacle Dynamics was bankrupt, Holt cuffed again thanks to Lena's tackle at the mill, but the victory was ash. Tara Hensley's lobby slur, Lena's betrayal, hospital deaths, Keisha's ruined clinic, Holt's racist manifesto had fueled a war that cost Marcus everything but Nia, and now even she hung by a whisper. His shoulder throbbed, the bat's crack from the mob a dull ache under his blood-stained shirt. Keisha's voice cracked on the phone an hour ago. "Come stay with me, Mark, you can't keep fighting." But Marcus couldn't leave Nia, couldn't abandon the city Holt had claimed as his. Gregory Holt's face, smirking at the bar, gloating. At the mill, haunted him, his notes scrawl, "This city's mine," a taunt that felt true. Pinnacle's collapse, City Hall's probed corruption, Holt's arrest, they'd been Marcus's wins, each clawed from hate's jaws. Yet here he was, broken, empire dust. Nia fading, his race Holt's weapon from that first get lost to this hospital's hum. He stared at the skyline through the window, Atlanta's lights mocking his fall. Vaughan Tech's liquidation papers, sat on a chair emailed by his board at dawn. No assets remain. Lawsuits from hospital deaths loomed, billions he couldn't pay. Keisha's clinic was shuttered, her dream crushed by Holt's doxing. Marcus's childhood mugshot, leaked to smear him, still trended, branding him a thug despite the truth. He'd fought, leaked Holt's confession, exposed City Hall, rallied protests, But Holt's hate had outrun him, each victory undone by bloodier blows. Naya's hand twitched, a ghost of movement, and Marcus's breath caught, hope flaring, then fading as the monitor beeped on, unchanged. His phone buzzed. A news alert. Lena Carter's testimony rocks Atlanta elite. Marcus frowned, clicking. Lena, the intern who'd betrayed him, then redeemed herself, had testified before Senator Ellis's probe, her voice steady on live feeds. She detailed Holt's White Dawn ties, naming councilmen, cops, even judges bankrolled by his next-gen shell. Her evidence, emails, recordings from her time as Holt's mole, implicated a network rigging Atlanta against black success. The report named Burke's replacement, a mayor's aide, and 3 sheriffs, all arrested by noon. Protests surged, chanting, "End the rot." Social media hailed Lena. She flipped on hate. A black lawyer tweeted, "Vaughn sparked this. Lena lit the fuse." Marcus's chest tightened. Lena's courage was his echo, her testimony a torch from his fight. The Fed seized NextGen's accounts, its board resigning, Atlanta's elite crumbling like Pinnacle. Holt's manifesto, his cleanse, was unraveling, faces he'd funded now cuffed on TV. Marcus had exposed City Hall, won that probe, thought it enough. But Naya's blood, his empire's ash, it hollowed him. He kissed her hand, whispering, "I tried, love." The skyline blurred, tears he hadn't shed since Decatur burning his eyes. He'd beaten Holt, but at what cost? His legacy was rubble, his fight a pyre consuming all he loved. A nurse tapped his shoulder, voice soft. "Mr. Vaughn, she's stabilizing. Talk to her." Marcus nodded, throat thick, and leaned close. "Nia, I'm here, I'm sorry." Her fingers twitched again, stronger, but her eyes stayed shut, the monitor's rhythm his only answer. He sat back, exhaustion crashing, expecting nothing but loss. His phone buzzed. Simone, his PR chief, now jobless with Vaughn Tech's end. "Check your email," she said, voice odd. "Something big." Marcus opened it, a cryptic note from Nia's personal account, sent hours before the mob. "If I'm gone, read this. I fixed us." His heart raced as he clicked. A contract signed by Nia selling Vaughn Tech's core patents to Biosynth, a rival he'd courted years ago. The deal, dated weeks back, was secret, wired to an offshore trust, $5 billion, untouchable by lawsuits or Holt's reach. A memo followed in Nia's words, "Mark, I saw Holt's game early. Sold the tech to save you. Start over. Love, N." Marcus's breath hitched. She'd moved in silence, her hospital bed a lies. Shield, protecting their future while he fought. The skyline shifted, no longer mocking but beckoning, a canvas for rebirth. He stood, Nia's pulse steady now, her eyes fluttering, a faint smile breaking through. "You sneaky genius," he whispered, tears falling. Doctors rushed in, her vitals spiking, awake, alive. "Mark," she rasped, gripping his hand. "We're free." Marcus laughed, broken but whole, the weight of Holt's war lifting. Biosynth's billions were a lifeline, but Nia's mind, sharper than his, was the victory. He kissed her forehead, the ICU's hum now hope, not dread. Atlanta had burned him, but Nia had saved him, rewriting despair into power. They vanished days later, slipping past reporters to a private jet, Priya covering their tracks. A Caribbean island, Turks and Caicos, became their refuge, its turquoise. Waves a balm to Nia's scars, Marcus's wounds. He stood on their villa's deck, Nia healing beside him, her laugh stronger each day. The $5 billion fueled a new dream, a global anti-racism tech hub, launched from the island funding coders, activists, startups, to dismantle bias worldwide. Marcus named it Nexus, a nod to the rival Holt had schemed with, now a symbol of redemption. Its first grant went to Keisha, rebuilding her clinic. Her kids' smiles Marcus's fuel. Nexus's launch streamed live, Marcus's face on screens from Nairobi to Oakland, announcing AI tools to expose corruption, protect black innovators. Social media soared. "Vaughn's back bigger." A Ghanaian dev tweeted, "Holt fell, Nexus rises." Lena joined remotely, her testimony honored, now a Nexus coder. her guilt channeled into code. Atlanta's probe closed, Holt's network gutted, 30 arrests from cops to tycoons. Pinnacle's ruins were sold, its logo erased, a footnote in Marcus's wake. He stood with Nia, their island breeze carrying hope, his empire reborn, not in steel but in change. Across the ocean, Holt sat in a Georgia prison, his cell grey, his sneer gone. A TV flickered, Nexus's launch replaying, Marcus's voice calm, unbreakable. Respect isn't given, it's built. Holt's fists clenched, veins bulging as Marcus's face filled the screen, untouchable, his legacy global. The guard switched channels, but Holt's scream tore the air, raw, impotent. He's nothing. Inmates laughed, his power dust. Marcus's victory sealed not in vengeance, but in creation. Holt's manifesto, his city, his hate, crushed. Under Nexus's weight, Marcus's final swing, a world rebuilt. Marcus walked the beach, Nia's hand in his, her scar a badge of their survival. Atlanta's skyline was memory, its lessons carved deep. Tara's slur, Lena's turn, Holt's bombs. He'd fought, lost, fought again, Nia's secret deal, the twist that broke Holt's game. Nexus wasn't just tech, it was defiance, every grant a middle finger to get lost. Keisha's clinic thrived, Lena coded futures, and Marcus, once a target, was a beacon. He looked at Nia, her eyes bright, and knew. Holt's scream was silence, their life, the roar. Marcus Vaughn's saga in Black CEO told to get lost by Receptionist. Minutes later, he shuts the entire company down, burns with truths about resilience and systemic hate. First, prejudice, like Tara's lobby slur, isn't just personal. It's a spark for larger fires, as Holt's manifesto turned bias into violence. Marcus faced slurs, smears, and bullets, yet his grit, honed in Decatur's shadows, never broke. Lesson 1. Strength isn't loud. It's the quiet will to rise after every blow. Second, allies matter, but trust must be earned. Lena's betrayal cut deep, but her redemption showed change is possible when guilt fuels action. Third, systems, city, hall, media, cops can amplify racism, rigging the game. Yet Marcus exposed their cracks, proving truth can shift tides. Nia's secret deal, selling patents to save them, taught that love and foresight can outsmart hate's chaos. Finally, victory isn't revenge, it's creation. Marcus didn't just topple Pinnacle. He built Nexus, a global anti-racism tech hub, turning pain into power. Holt's scream in prison wasn't Marcus's win. Nia's smile and Keisha's clinic were. The story screams, racism's roots run deep, but so does defiance. Fight smart, build bigger, and never let hate claim the last word. What's your take on Marcus's journey? Comment below if you think resilience can rewrite hate's script, like this video, to stand against systemic bias, and subscribe to catch more stories of unbreakable spirits. Share this to spark change. Thanks for joining this fight for justice. Here's to building a world where no one's told to get lost.